Hey everyone. Oh, sorry about that. Hello. Sorry. I'm putting it on the side for you because people complain, but now I don't remember where the camera is. Hi everyone. It's definitely different when the camera is over here rather than up there. Calling Patrick-Goudreau, vegan author and animal advocate, and I'm here in Oakland with an appeal. The first thing I want to ask you to do is go to joyfulvegan.com and make sure you're subscribed to the blog, because lots of really good stuff is going to be coming out. Lots of really good stuff is already over there. But if you subscribe to the blog, and this is different than subscribing to my mailing list, which you can also do and get your free Joyful Vegan Starter Guide at joyfulvegan.com. But by subscribing to the blog, which you can do by just putting your email address on the right-hand side in the sidebar, you'll see the subscription call for subscription field. And that means that anytime I put a post out on my website, you see what I post. And I think that's just a lot better for you than even the mailing list, to be honest. I would love to increase the number of people who are subscribed to the blog, because I think that's where you're just going to get lots more value. So that is number one, and all that's to say, oops, let me plug this in so we don't run out of battery. But anyway, hi everybody. Where are you? Your name, I want to see you, and I haven't yet. So let me know where you're from. So a lot of you know that as a lover of animals, as a protector of animals, as an advocate for animals, as a voice for animals, I'm a huge advocate for wildlife, and I am blessed and grateful to see deer and raccoons and skunks and rats and possum and turkeys and crows and hawks and all sorts of birds here at my house here in Oakland. And you know how much I love seeing the deer. And you know, one of the things that's really hard about being really close to wildlife is you also see them suffer. And so last year we had a really tragic incident where one of the deer, baby deer, Pius, showed up with a very badly injured leg, and there was nothing I could do about it. He was too old to rescue and do anything about. And he eventually died, and I felt very grateful that he really stayed here on our property and allowed us to intervene to give him a final peaceful death, even though he suffered a lot. And I didn't expect to get emotional, but it's so hard to not be able to do anything. You know, when it's domesticated animals, we can help a cat, and we should. We can help a dog. We can help any farmed animal. Well, not any farmed animal, because of laws that make it impossible for us to help farmed animals, but we can at least touch them and hold them and help them and intervene. When it comes to wildlife, it's very difficult, and yet we humans are the cause of so much of their suffering. There are so many hazards that they have to contend with that make it so difficult for them. And I don't really want to hear like, well, that's just nature. Nature is really hard. No, like, we create so many of these hazards. So I will tell you why I'm going in this direction, and then I'll show you my sponge. But first, hello everybody. Hi Cheryl, and hi Darren. Ooh, a peach sponge cake sounds delightful. Hi Nikki, and hi Judy. Hi everybody. So today, one of the deer, it's either Remus or Romulus. I do have difficulty telling the difference between the two. They were the twins born last year to a different mother. There was Pius and Hadrian born to Athena, and there was Remus and Romulus born to Antonella, and Pius is the one who died, so Hadrian remains, and Antonella still has Remus and Romulus, and actually Antonella just gave birth to maybe two babies. I don't know. I've only seen the one, and we've named her Pandora. But today, Remus or Romulus showed up. They both showed up, but one of them has a terrible, terrible injury on his leg, on both legs, on his flanks. There's a huge gash on both sides, on either side. And it looks like he went through and squeezed through like a really tight space that was sharp and too small for him. And it's just scraped. And I don't know what did it. I have no idea. So I will continue to provide water for them. I will continue to be a quiet, safe place for them. But one of the things I've been meaning to do, especially since Marcus broke his leg a couple years ago, Pius injured his leg really badly, and I just saw Remus, or Romulus, is I've been meaning to go up on our hillsides and walk around and see where there might be hazards, because there could very well be sharp, fencing, wires, things that are tripping hazards. And I'm gonna put the video of Remus, let's say it's Remus for now, out on our neighborhood listserv and out on Nextdoor, which is a well-known listserv. And I'm gonna really put it out to all of our, neighbors who live in our neighborhood, but I wanna appeal to you too, and please send this to family and friends and groups that you're part of. There's so many ways that we feel so powerless, where we can't help animals. Those of us who are vegan are doing it because we don't want to contribute to violence against them. And yet there's not a direct correlation. I don't stop, eating animals and then I see 10 animals saved. It's not the way it works, but we still remain vegan because it reduces demand for meat, dairy, and eggs. And it means that we're not contributing to a system that is anathema to us, and that it's, that's against our very values as compassionate people. But when we can intervene directly, I think we should. And when it comes to wildlife, there are so many things we can do. Even though I might not be able to pick Remus up and put him in a crate and bring him to a vet, there are things we can do. And, one of the things that I've talked about is keeping water out for wildlife, creating spaces for them that are quiet, not turning every bit of property we have into a space for us to entertain on, keeping things wild. You can listen to my interview with Nancy Lawson about humane gardening, which is really just about humane, spaces in our, around our own homes, so that we can preserve homes for other animals. No, Melinda, you have to tell me more about that. I do want to hear more about that. I don't know about that. So I'm just putting out an appeal to everyone who can go look at their spaces. Maybe there's hazards around your house. Maybe there aren't corridors in your neighborhood to enable animals to be able to get from one part of the area to the next. What's happening these days is everyone's closing off so many their yards, and there's so many fences that wildlife can't get through. They don't have the ability to migrate the way they once were able to. This includes, every kind of wild animal. Birds obviously have so many hazards. This is springtime. It's springtime where you are. It's springtime where I am. Well, it's maybe not springtime wherever you are, but it's springtime where most of you are, or a lot of you are. And the point is, this is a time when everyone starts cutting down trees and pruning branches, and it's exactly the time to not do that, because birds are nesting. There are so many animals who go to wildlife rehab places this time of year in the spring because people are pruning their branches. And it's exactly when all of the animals are nesting, so many animals. So don't prune until the fall. Wait. Like I said, put water out, have yard scraps for animals to be able to make nests. We don't have to always have these perfect yards and gardens and so manicured and so cultivated. Getting rid of lawns. There's no animals thrive on a lawn. It's the most artificial turf that imaginable. So converting our lawns into wild spaces, and of course planting natives as much as possible. People talk about, well, I'm helping the bees by having a beehive. No. You can help the bees by planting bee-friendly flowers. That's gonna help the bees, not keeping beehives and keeping bees and turning that into honey. No. It's still about us when we do that. If it's really about the animals, if it's really about the bees, if it's really about the insects, then plant flowers. I planted milkweed seeds itself, monarch butterflies are just one of those kind of ambassador species that represent so many animals who are losing habitat. And milkweed is their food, and so I've planted milkweed, and it's great because it seeds itself. And I just saw 2 monarch caterpillars on our milkweed a couple weeks ago. So I wrote to my very good friend who's a monarch advocate. She's amazing, up in Oregon, and was asking her tips for save them and help them. Now I haven't seen the caterpillars, and a bird could have gotten them, and that is nature. I can't do anything, you know, about that short of bringing them inside, which I could have done, but I didn't. But the point is, there's so much we can do. So I am going to just look at your comments. Thank you for listening to my rant. I am on the verge of tears because there's just so much we can do, and I just really encourage everyone to do what we can. There's also so much we can't do. So being able to identify the things that we can do, I think is really empowering, and it's really effective for those who, you know, for those who really suffer because of our footprint. So Mary, what are you saying? Hi, Mary. Working to get rid of our lawns and planting natives. That's awesome. That's amazing. Oh, that's so great. I know it's so different. People have, you know, lawns became this thing that was sold to us. It was, they were imported over here in the United States from England, and they became this trendy thing. Well, it's over. That trend is over. It's time to undo it. Convert our lawns to wild space, and, you know, have a messy yard, plant natives, plant flowers. There's just so many things we can do. There's so many resources, so many books out there that will give you ideas. You know, subscribe to different organizations, mailing lists, subscribe to blogs that will give you tips for wildlife. So for those of you who are vegan for the animals, awesome, and get out there and do something for the wildlife. I'm just as interested. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I do everything I can, but, you know, I'm not perfect either. And I'd love to hear about what you do. I'd love to hear about what your ideas are and what your thoughts are. And exactly, Nikki, the Humane Gardener is awesome. And Nancy Lawson is really wonderful. I really encourage you to follow her on Instagram or on Facebook. Right, Catherine. So Catherine says, I agree with this so much. I have native grass and clover in my yard that I do not treat with chemicals, and there are always several bunnies in my small yard that enjoy the foliage. I love it. And Tina, awesome Tina, plants natives. Katie says, unrelated, but I made your carrot cake from the Joy of Vegan Baking the other day. It was absolutely incredible. The best carrot cake I've ever had. That's awesome, Katie. Thank you. So let me get to Melinda in a second. And deer love eating all your plants in Ohio. I know that's also an issue too, and I know you're not necessarily saying this, but that is a big issue too, is that we're constantly fighting wildlife. We're constantly fighting wildlife so that they don't get to eat like our pretty cultivated artificial, I say artificial meaning that they're cultivated, they're not wild often. Again, we have an area in our yard where we're able to fence off from the deer. And Atticus did get in last week, and he ate some of our grapevines. He ate some of my tomato bush plants. He ate some of my strawberry plants. He ate some of my, what's the name of the flower? So he did quite a job back there. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep the gate closed because I would like to have some, some vegetables, and just, I don't want him to eat everything. But they're allowed to have everything else. And again, when we did some landscaping downstairs, we did do deer resistant plants, and, we're just in a spot, this is the thing to do too, is kind of assess your own space. We're in an area, I keep looking out here because it's just all hillside and ivy and oak trees, where they do have a lot of area to eat. Me having a small cultivated, garden downstairs is not affecting them that much, but I want to know what is definitely affecting them. I want to know what's hurting them. I want to know what's causing them damage, because it doesn't look like he was hit by a car, Remus, but which is also, of course, a risk, of course, a hazard that they have to contend with all the time. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. It's, again, we are all raised to think one way and to see things in one way. I totally get it, this whole zero waste journey that I'm on, I've talked about it as a parallel to being vegan, is I didn't notice things that I was doing, and I'm a conscious person, until I really started looking. And now that I am, it's really changed my perspective. So it's the same thing with something like this, like, oh God, I never even thought about that. So, okay, awesome. Now that I have, I can do things differently. I have not been on Rich Roll. I don't know why, but seems that the answer is no. I have not. So I want to show you, on a happy note, I want to show you, I've been practicing with a sponge recipe to make a sponge cake. Now I did it in cupcakes, and I will show you one because I want to show you what one of the sponges looks like. And I'm quite pleased. It was made with aquafaba, so it's very light, and I'm quite pleased. Maravone says, great in the backyard, but do you battle HOAs for the front yard? No, and again, like everyone's gonna have different challenges, right? I don't have an HOA. If you have an HOA, that is definitely something that can be a challenge, and it's definitely something you might have to challenge. It might be an area where you realize that's a fight you wanna have, right? That's a battle you wanna take on. Homeowners Association, for those who don't know what I'm talking about. Absolutely, there might be issues where your neighbor is doing something that you don't like, or using pesticides, and you don't want pesticides coming over onto your property. There are so many issues. I'm not saying that there aren't challenges that we will encounter all the time, but that's just life, right? So there's always something we can do, and we have to decide which battles to pick. So yeah, no, I don't have that. I don't have that issue. And if you do, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are resources for that as well. There's so many wildlife organizations, a lot of native plant organizations, a lot of rewilding organizations. So I would really encourage you to tap into them to see what suggestions they have. Mary says, please see the post on my page about the recent study that pesticides and herbicides are responsible for dogs getting cancer. I've shared on Nextdoor, and it's been shared with my neighbors, hoping it'll get them to stop using these chemicals. Yeah, absolutely. And I do, you know, Nancy and I have talked about this. I've talked about this when I interviewed Camilla Fox for Project Coyote. We talked about this. Nextdoor and neighborhood listservs are such a fantastic way to spread information and inspiration to your neighbors. Like I said, do this on any listserv. I mean, I can put this video out. I'm going to be putting it out probably tomorrow morning, maybe later. I don't know. It's probably not a morning video. I don't think it's what everybody wants to see in the morning. I usually post something more inspirational and positive in the morning. So maybe I'll just put it out in a little bit this evening. But everybody can take that video and put it on their listserv. It doesn't mean that, you know, doesn't have to stay confined to an Oakland listserv or my neighborhood listserv. You can use that as an example of, like, here's what it looks like, you know, for a deer to suffer from hazards caused by, most likely humans. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's most likely not, like, you know, ivy that caused this, you know, or something natural. So everybody can take information we get from, you know, organizations like Wildcare and wildlife organizations, and share that information with people. Like sharing with your neighbors to not prune their trees this time of the year, that's massive. Like, it seems really small, but that's like a huge win. Those little things, if we just changed our habits, if we just thought more broadly beyond our own borders, I think we could do a lot. Michelle said, this is a subject that isn't talked about nearly enough, but you're so right. I know it's not talked about enough. It's really not. Catherine says, I know local conservation offices that often have native trees and wildflowers available for discounted rates, even for free. It's true. This weekend, I actually missed it, but there was a native plant sale here in Oakland and in Berkeley. It was at the Berkeley Botanical Gardens, and then Merritt College, which focuses, they have a big horticulture and botanical program. They also had a big plant sale. So when you're on those lists, you will hear about those things. So, okay, you want to see my sponge? Does that sound inappropriate? I also made some buttercream icing, which I'm going to put in the refrigerator, but check that out. Oh, so beautiful and so delicious and so perfect and fluffy. And I have it slightly colored, I don't know if you can tell, with a little bit of turmeric. It doesn't change the flavor at all, but So good. Can you see? Slightly yellow. So here's my sponge. I'm quite pleased. As I said, it's light. It's really light. I'm really, really pleased with this sponge. Check that out. Oh my God. Look at that. Honestly, I know this sounds really stupid. It's so light. Like, I wish you could actually feel how light this is. I've baked for a long time, and some of my baked goods are dense, and that's okay. Some of them are meant to be, but this is so light. So this is my sponge, and once I perfect it, I will be sharing it with you. It's so good. It is so absolutely delicious. And I just, like I said, I wanted to make it as cupcakes. I just wanted to make it as cupcakes because then I could taste it, see how the texture is, and then I can share these as opposed to a cake. I don't want to cut into it. So good. And then I have some lemon curd left over from our big dinner extravaganza. I don't know if you saw it the other night, but between this frosting and this curd, can you see? It's gonna be really pretty. We have a book signing. I have a book signing on Thursday if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's Thursday night up in Montclair at the Great Good Place for Books. It's called the Great Good Place for Books. And Christy Middleton and Sid Garza-Hillman and myself are doing a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser for a school here in Oakland. And it's at Great Good Place for Books. I think it's at 7 o'clock. It's at 7 o'clock. So if you are in the Bay Area, I encourage you to come. So once I can perfect these, I think they're pretty perfect, but I'm gonna make more tomorrow and probably on Thursday so I can bring them to the event. Aquafaba is indeed the vegan sorcery of the best kind. I agree. It is vegan sorcery and it's amazing. If you guys haven't seen my pavlova, which is a vegan meringue, which I hate even saying that, which is a meringue, which it's vegan, duh. You're talking to the joyful vegan, so obviously it's vegan. It's a little gnat in here that needs to stop right now. So it's a meringue dessert, and of course I made the meringue with aquafaba, and I also made a fluffy whipped cream with aquafaba. So there's already a recipe on my website at joyfulvegan.com for meringue cookies, so I encourage you to go check that out. But I'll be posting more. As I'm writing in defense of compassion, I'm already thinking towards my next book, and I just want to tell you that my next book will have recipes in it. Yeah, you do. Maravone, I'm gonna have to check it out. I will check it out for sure. Maravone has a pavlova on her YouTube channel. Okay, I have so much more to do tonight, including calling some of my wildlife folks and finding out what they think the issue is with Remus. But yeah, so I've given you many tasks. Go to joyfulvegan.com, subscribe to the blog, subscribe or register for the Compassion in Action Conference if you have not yet. I really do think this is going to be the last year I do it. It's the 3rd annual. I don't know if I can continue it. It's a lot of work, and I think it's worth it because I really think it's very special and unique and like no other vegan conference out there. But I don't know. It's a lot of work. So this might be the last one. So if you want to come to see this live in person, register for the Compassion in Action Conference here in Oakland in August. I'm picking out my sponge because it's really good. What else? You have lots of work to do for helping wildlife. And I think that's it. Come to Houston. Oh, that's awesome, Maravone. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you, Catherine. Aquafaba actually can be frozen. So it keeps for quite a bit of time. I would use it within a few months, but it can be frozen. Most importantly, cupcakes are meant to be frosted. So I'm gonna go frost some cupcakes, and then I'll put them in the fridge. I don't actually have to put this in the fridge first. It's actually a nice texture. And then I'm gonna get back to some writing. Actually, I might eat some dinner first because I haven't had any food. I don't have a big piping bag. I'm not a fancy piper. I'm not a piper, but maybe someday I will be. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for listening. Have a wonderful night. I so appreciate the time you take to come on here, and Michiko wants to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye? Michi, come here. What is it? Oh, she doesn't love to be picked up. She doesn't. But do you want to say goodbye to everybody? But you're very beautiful. Don't you want to see everybody? Look, everybody's sending you hearts. Get you very beautiful. Oh. Okay, Michiko and I are gonna go. Oh, she's very sad. See, you can see that I'm torturing Michiko right now. That's her torture sound. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, too much. All right, everybody, have a good night for the animals. This is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. Thanks for